Howdy folks, welcome to the Daily Coin. My name is Rory and today is Friday, April the 14th, 2017. Good Friday to all of those that celebrate. And I have on the line the coffee swilling, fake news pumping Guerrilla Economist, the silverback of economics, the sultan of swing, the man, the myth. Welcome back.
I love the intro, man. That's awesome. Oh, man, that's awesome. Great to be back, bro. I love being here at the Daily Coin. I'm a big fan of your work and what you guys do. Oh, man, I mean, where do we begin, Rory? I mean, God, it is a crap storm going on. There's so much of a fog of war and confusion, yet, people tell us just relax. It's just, 5D chess and 10D chess. And, to a guy like me who's just a monkey with a banana, it just looks like 1D Connect 4 to me, man,
It just looks like a big pile of goo with the potential for a lot of people to lose their lives. That's all that I'm seeing. They're already stripping our wealth as quick as they can, and now they're coming for our life. And that's where I want to start. And I to your point, I actually wrote in an article the other day that what used to take maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month for an issue to unfold now takes minutes.
Right.
And it's very difficult to keep up with. But the past 2 years, Russia has extended a hand to help the U.S. defeat ISIS,
right,
which we all know is a CIA creation. And
right,
Obama declined each of these offers from Russia. Now, Trump has not only done the same thing as Obama, he is spewing the same false flag nonsense and bombed Syria and now Afghanistan. How does the Trump administration get out of this situation without a lot of death and destruction?
I mean, to say stupidity it's beyond me. When I looked at this, I mean, I was hooting and hollering and rah-rahing just like everybody else in the beginning of the term. I was so ecstatic, so excited with everything that's happening. And and I like a lot of people, when I saw the roadblocks occur with the Obamacare debacle, then when you realize that the tax reforms are not going to happen, like, okay, maybe it's going to let the whole system implode itself. And then you see, the shadow president himself, Jared Kushner, flying all over the world and basically letting everybody, giving his take on it. I mean, why would you have a kid, somebody who's like, what, 35, 36 years old, who's zero experience in any of this? He's in over his head. He is your chief strategist. This is the guy who's going to fly. He's going to solve Mideast peace. I mean, this is a joke. This guy shows up in Iraq wearing a blazer with a bulletproof jacket over it, looking like, J. Crew, the War Collection, looking like Full Metal Jackass. And, and then shortly right after him showing up in Iraq, we launched these Tomahawk cruise missiles. I mean, those ships were in that area ready to launch. Everything was set to go. This was a complete false flag. And then people were like to me immediately, Lori, they're like, well, Trump launched that because he wants to show a strength to to the Russians. If you want to show a show of strength to the Russians, what you do is you clean up the White House.
Exactly.
If you want to show a show of strength to the Russians and the Chinese and the rest of the world, you start putting people like Hillary Clinton in handcuffs. You start closing down ranks on Obama. I mean, for the love of God, Rory, was it not that Susan Rice was basically handed over on a silver platter, gift wrapped?
Yes.
And what's become of that? Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay?
Same as with Hillary.
Yeah, nothing. Nothing's become of that. Exactly. And the whole thing is as well. You're going to fire off, 59 piece of junk, 40-year-old designed, obsolete Tomahawk missiles that just for kicks and giggles, the Russians just deactivated like at least 60 of them. I'm sorry, at least like 60% of them from hitting. So only 20 actually wound up hitting the airfield. Okay, people are like, well, nothing hit the airfield. It was a strategy. It was precisely no. First of all, the Tomahawk. I've said this so many times. With my experience in military hardware, the Tomahawk is a flying turd. It is a flying turd with wings. It is a subsonic, missile that flies at 400 miles an hour. The Russian equivalent is much more lethal. They're about 2 generations ahead. which is called the Caliber, which flies at 2,300 miles an hour. So the Tomahawk is a piece of junk. So the reason why it didn't hit the airfield, I think, it has less to do with Trump than either sheer luck or an act of God. Okay, and the fact that the missile is a piece of junk, that's why it didn't hit the airstrip itself. So all these people saying, "Oh, this is he made sure that he didn't hit the airfield," I think that was just dumb luck. That was just dumb luck. And you only had 20 missiles. So what happened to the rest of those 50 some odd missiles? Well, they fell in the water and they fell in surrounding areas because Russians were able to deactivate it using their electronic warfare. That's what several of my sources have said. Okay, so again, Putin's playing cool hand Luke over here, containing this barrage of nonsense. The second thing that has occurred is this: you have immediately this. Oh, Assad did it. Wait a minute. So this is the guy who tweeted out in 2013, "Oh, Obama, don't attack. It's going to be tremendous, tremendous problems. It's going to be a failure. America's going to get nothing out of it. It's going to be really bad. It's tremendous. It's huge, huge problems if you attack Syria without a congressional approval." And now, boom, all of a sudden. And now we're told, "Oh, it's the babies, oh, the babies." That's the same thing that we've been told every single march to war we've had. "Oh, it's the babies." Like that girl, the fake Kuwaiti ambassador girl, the drama queen who got up there and says, "Oh, she saw Iraqi soldiers, throwing babies out of incubators." I mean, what nonsense. And the American public, like a bunch of morons, gets behind this kind of nonsense. So the same thing's being done. We're getting gamed again. We're getting played again. And then in the last, and 2 days ago, okay, Rory, in 24 hours, we've had him flip on 5 issues. All of a sudden, China's not a currency manipulator. All of a sudden, a weak dollar is a good thing. Strong dollar is not so good. Now, weak dollar is a good thing, and low interest rates are beautiful. And Janet Yellen is a wonderful person, and we don't need no import-export bank. And then, NATO is not obsolete. It's actually quite relevant. And Montenegro, which is the most irrelevant country, which is the one that John McCain was frothing in the mouth, saying we need to add Montenegro to NATO because they're under attack from the Russians. And then Rand Paul's like, "What are you talking about?" And then immediately, McCain calls Rand Paul, "Oh, he's working for Putin." I mean, the guy's nuts.
He is nuts.
Montenegro stands to be invaded from Italy using means of delicious baked breads, pastas, and sauces, and all sorts of delicious food. That's the only invasion Montenegro. That's the only threat Montenegro has. There's no Russian threat there. So this whole Montenegro expanding NATO, this is again giving the U.S. another warm water port to operate out of, and it sends the wrong message to China. Now we have the debacle in North Korea, which this morning, London Paul and James, the Russian analyst, and myself were deliberating on the morning show. What the hell's going on in North Korea? Every year about this time, they celebrate their dead leader or their dead founder's birthday. I think it's their 105th anniversary. These idiots always shoot off missiles. These idiots are always setting off a nuke test to show their greatness, and it happens at this time. So our fleet to be in the same time in that area, knowing full well, okay, the Russians already warned them, "Hey, this is what they do every year. Don't be surprised they set off a missile or detonate a nuke. Don't be so hard ass about it." So at the same time this is going on, Rory, our fleet just shows up, in the Korean peninsula, and already with the pretext that if any missiles are fired, we're going to attack. But wait a minute, the Koreans do this all the time. The American public doesn't know this. Okay, so if this occurs, and now, we've heard the whole entire thing with China, where China is amassing troops, 150,000 troops in the border.
Yep.
China doesn't want a united Korea under the terms of the U.S. because that puts the U.S. again at their doorstep. They don't like it, Rory. Okay, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And that whole thing, again, going back to the Syrian missile strike, this guy fires off missiles while Xi Jinping is there, and the idiots in the old media were like, "Oh, he's showing strength to Xi Jinping." Again, Xi Jinping in China is not impressed by Tomahawk cruise missiles. They'd be impressed if they actually cleaned up the White House. And then you give the guy chocolate. He might as well would have slapped him. It would have been less offensive.
Yes.
Rory?
I agree. I agree. I mean, what Dave and I did on the Shadow of Truth a few days, last Monday, right after the attack, is we actually titled the show, "Trust in the U.S. was bombed away." And that is exactly what has happened. And it seems that the entire world has had it with the U.S. The
Yep.
Pentagon actually conducted 16 different war games with Russia less than 2 years ago. The U.S. lost all 16.
Yep.
Why would these warmongers continue to push and push and push for a war with Russia, especially in light of a complete loss of respect on the world stage? I mean, who would come to our aid? Who would I mean, other than the UK, of course, and possibly Japan, but they don't even have an army. So other than these two lapdogs that we have, who's going to help us? Nobody.
Exactly. Nobody.
Nobody. There's not
Nope.
anybody that can or is willing to help us. It's just not going to
Right.
happen. Everybody else in the world is looking at us going, "You bunch of crazy psychos doing
Yeah.
it again, selling
Yep.
that same junk story that you've been selling for the past 15 years ever since 9/11."
Did you see the Bolivian ambassador to the UN when the U.S. envoy were speaking to the UN about this whole entire Bashir al-Assad attacked his own people? Did you see what he did?
No, it's
Well, while the U.S. delegation was speaking to the UN, hooting and hollering and fomenting at the mouth about how Assad attacked his own people with a chemical attack, the Bolivian delegate to the UN held up a big picture of Colin Powell holding up the so-called Nigerian yellow cake.
Oh, that perfect.
They were ballsy enough to do that.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I want
Oh,
to step back in time for just a second and possibly step into the weeds here. And if you remember, Victoria Nuland,
Yep.
a couple of years ago, met with Greek Prime Minister Tsipras in
Yep.
private.
Yeah.
Tsipras and the Syriza party ran on the platform of, we're out of the EU, we're done with the debt, we're not paying them back, and he was elected on that platform. After that meeting, that private meeting with Nuland, Tsipras did a 180-degree turn. And at that time, I said she not only threatened him, but threatened his entire family. The Tsipras family crest would be removed from the planet. It almost seems like something along these lines happened with Trump, as he has now done a 180-degree turn from some of his biggest talking points during the campaign. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? And once again, it's pure speculation.
I mean, Nuland is a lackey of the supreme empress, the god empress herself, which is or the war goddess, excuse me, which is Hillary Clinton. That show. I mean, she's a Clinton acolyte. So it would
Yes.
not surprise me she's carrying out the orders of the mafia dons themselves, telling Tsipras, "Hey, here's the deal. You're going to sign this deal here, right here on this dotted line. Either it's going to be ink on this paper or it's going to be your brains on this paper. But one way or another, this deal's getting done." It is quite possible. I mean, my whole thing is when you fast forward to today, okay, we have all the hallmarks of a hijacked administration.
Yes.
Okay, all the hallmarks of it, and yet to this second, to this very day, I'm being told this is all part of 3D chess and 4D chess and 5D chess and 10D chess, and I don't get it, and this, that, and the other. And this is some huge Machiavellian play that was coordinated between the Russians and the Chinese and Trump, and because he's such a masterful wizard, this guy put in charge a J Crew clothing line wearing, turtleneck wearing, blazer under a flak jacket wearing moron as his chief strategist in the Middle East. I mean, need I say more? Okay, need I say more? So the evidence is, it's unless somebody, I want the guy to succeed. I want the guy to fulfill every single promise he's had with the American people. But unless I see some extremely hardcore, tangible evidence beyond the conjecture, because that's all we're having today, Rory, is just conjecture. If we can see some hard evidence, then I'll be a believer again. But right now, I'm gonna hold the guy's feet to the fire. Be like, hey, man, you are tripping. You are showing all the hallmarks of a hijacked administration, and I'm gonna stand by that. I don't care how many times people tell me it's 5D chess when it looks like 1D Connect 4.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with. I've heard you say that on the morning show several times, but I don't understand what that means. So, and like you,
the 4D chess.
Yeah, I'm pretty simple and straightforward, and it looks. I wrote right after he was right after Trump was elected back in early November.
Yeah.
I wrote about his love of the police state, and that was kind of scary to me. And then I wrote another piece outlining all of the swamp critters that he supposedly was going to be draining from the swamp, but they were all coming back on the team. And it was like, okay, who is this guy? So I questioned it from the very beginning. And I want to believe, like you, V, I want something positive for our country. I want some leadership in our country and not a bunch of crazies in the back hallway, dictating everything for the war machine, for more death and more destruction and more debt. And that's what I want. I want to change gears just real quick. The economy, as you are well aware, is tanking. And Russia and China are finishing the details on parallel financial systems that completely circumvent the Federal Reserve note. I mean, do you see these recent actions, the attack on Syria and now Afghanistan? Do you see this fast-tracking these systems from where they're at, which is pretty well done? Do you see that becoming more of an issue in the short run, or do you think they're going to stick to their more long-term plans?
I think the cabal, as London Paul would like to call them, or the deep state, the establishment, the Illuminists, the Luciferians, quote unquote, insert name here. These guys are done. They are right now trying to stay relevant in a paradigm that no longer exists. We're seeing all this tension across the world, Rory, because we're entering and we're transitioning from a unipolar world that has dominated the planet for so many decades into right now a multipolar world. And we're not used to the fact that we are no longer the big boys on the block. We're not the 800-pound gorilla sitting on the end of the table dictating the terms to the rest of the world. The Russians and the Chinese have masterfully outmaneuvered us, outplayed us, and outgained us in so many levels. And right now, the greatest trump card in this whole entire thing is he who has the gold wins.
Exactly.
And to this day, nobody has more gold than China, period. And I'm not even going to go into, how much gold they had in the Zhang, Han, and Qing dynasties that are in China that are still hidden, that are still within the private families that have kept them from the hands of the Japanese during World War II. I'm not even going to go into the tens of thousands of tons of that. What I'm going to tell you is the unofficial counts. The unofficial count, we have anywhere between 20 to 30,000 metric tons of gold in China.
Yep.
They are ready to back it. They're ready to back the yuan. They're ready to collapse their bubble economy and roll out a hard asset backed currency like the yuan. And the Russians are going to follow in suit. I mean, they've done already SIPs, which is their alternative to SWIFT.
Yep.
Okay.
It's already in place.
It's already in place. So any country that's being quote unquote sanctioned by the U.S., you ain't got to worry about that. And for the listeners, let me explain to you the significance of it. For the last several decades, for the longest time, if Rory was in Zimbabwe and I was in Australia and I wanted to send Rory some money because he's in Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwe dollars, the Zim is hyperinflated to oblivion, and I wanted to send Rory some Australian dollars. I'd have to, when I send it out, if the instructions are sent through SWIFT and the money is cleared through the Fed wire. That's how it's always worked. So it's easy for the U.S. to say, all right, we're going to sanction Zimbabwe. And now Zimbabwe is cut off from the financial world. They can't buy things. They can't trade things. I mean, they're screwed. Okay?
Yep.
Now with SIPs in place, you have completely bisected the Fed wire. You no longer have to go through the Fed wire. It's over. Okay, so that whole thing is done with. Now I can send Rory money irrespective of what sanctions is placed on Zimbabwe. It doesn't matter anymore.
Doesn't matter.
And then on top of that, if the country that Rory's in, let's say Zimbabwe again, decides to be an active trading partner with China, You cannot blockade, you cannot sanction, and you cannot economically harm a business partner of China. It's just not going to happen. Why? Because the Chinese are the largest producers, they're the largest manufacturer, they're the largest banking sector, they're the biggest business sector, they're the largest car market, the largest construction market, the largest technology market. I mean, I can go on and on and on how much bigger they are. They're a much bigger economy than the U.S. People don't understand this, Rory. At least 50% of the U.S. quote unquote GDP is reshuffled debt. We're one of the most insane countries in the world that counts government expenditure as GDP growth. I mean, that's insane. That's like me emptying out my checking account and be like, hey, honey, we've had some serious growth this month. We have zero money in the bank, but the good news is I bought all these trinkets and useless baubles.
Right. And hired a bunch of people. Don't forget about hiring all these people.
Exactly. And speaking about hiring and all the jobs we're creating, I mean, you saw the March jobs numbers. It was tepid, 98,000. I mean, what's 98,000 jobs on top of 95 million permanently unemployed Americans? What's 98,000 jobs on top of 101 million Americans on some sort of welfare? What's 98,000 jobs on close to 50 million Americans on food stamps? What is 98,000 jobs in the grand scheme of things? Nothing. And all this talk about it, we're going to bring in, billions of dollars in investments from this country and that country and this company and that company, and we're going to bring it over here, and it's going to create jobs. Really? With Obamacare, you're going to do that? Who would want to bring anything here with
Exactly.
Obamacare?
Nobody.
Jeez, nobody.
Nobody's hiring that's already here. Why are they going to? Why do they think that they're going to bring in companies from outside the border and enslave them under this system? It ain't going to happen. They look at it and go, "Thanks, but no thanks. We'll stay here where we can actually manage our own funds instead of having you manage them for us. We see how you manage things, not very well." And I want to stay with gold. And Russia and China have been working for the past several years to acquire as much gold as possible. And now we've just recently learned about this BRICS gold marketplace going into place in Beijing and Moscow, and the Dubai's futures market that Ken Shortgen just introduced me to. All three of these are going to be tied to the Shanghai Gold Exchange.
Game over.
And is exactly. And how is once this comes on, once the Dubai comes online, and then these two BRICS gold marketplaces come online, Kazakhstan has already met with the director of the Shanghai Gold Exchange for the specific purpose of introducing gold along the One Belt, One Road, New Silk Road project.
Right.
It sounds like they are, in fact, getting the last few pieces in place in order to make that happen. Because if you just take and draw a line from Moscow to Beijing to Dubai, and then you overlay the New Silk Road, you can see quite clearly what's actually happening. And Kazakhstan is right there in the middle of it. And they're a big gold producer, big gold refiner as well. I think they refine all the gold for Russia. I may be wrong in saying that, don't hold me to it. But I know that they are a big refining nation.
Yep.
So how do you see these markets tying into the Shanghai Gold Exchange? The LBMA, the CM, and the COMEX are both on their last leg.
Yes.
Is that where? How long do you think that it's going to take before this really unfolds?
You know what? I'll tell you this right now, Rory, and I'm sorry to be a little crass here, but I'm going to have to do this just to slap the audience across the face and give them a little wake-up call, maybe throw some cold lemon water at them and some dark roast coffee to wake them up. But I'm going to tell them this. Americans everywhere should thank God that President Xi Jinping doesn't wake up one day and look over at his nightstand at this red button that says F the dollar. Okay, we should thank God every day that man doesn't wake up and hit the F the dollar button.
Yes, we should.
Because that is the only thing that is stopping this whole entire debacle from coming apart, man. That's it. I mean, look at this. People will say, well, the Shanghai Gold Price Exchange, what does that mean, V? Well, Dudley Do-Right, here's how it goes. Number one, it is 52 times bigger than the COMEX. Number two, it deals in actual physical gold versus
Yes.
paper contracts in the COMEX. Number three, the largest bank on the planet, which is ICBC, which is a Chinese bank. Yes, the top three out of the top four biggest banks on the planet are Chinese. ICBC not only sits as the head bank over there, but they're also one of the biggest banks. They actually bought Deutsche Bank's position on the London LBMA price exchange. So they're sitting on both the LBMA as well as the Shanghai. What's happening is they're absorbing the LBMA.
Correct.
London is being, I mean, look, here's the deal. Last month, 83% of all bullion sales in the United States went to China. Okay? Same thing's happening in London. Or there was a point where there was 1,000 tons of gold was being liquidated out of London 2 years ago. I mean, every month, like clockwork. Okay? China is the biggest gold producer in the world. They're the biggest gold refiner in the world. They're the biggest gold consumer in the world. And they're the biggest gold importer in the world. Why are they doing this? Are they crazy? Let me tell you some folks something. The Chinese have been around, and my buddy Jim Rogers said it best. He said, V, the Chinese have been around thousands of years longer than us. They know what they're doing. And they might be capitalist, they might be communist on the surface, but they're the most capitalistic guys you'll ever meet. They're doing this because this is the way you kill the cancerous, tumor-ridden elephant that is called the United States and its dollar hegemony. This is how you kill it. You kill it with this soft economic underbelly. That's how you slit it, you fillet that underbelly, you let the toxic, cancer-ridden guts spill out onto the floor, and that's how you end this monster, and that's how you prevent World War III. You kill the dollar. That's how you prevent it. Kill the dollar, and there's no World War III. Kill the dollar, ships don't move. Kill the dollar, there's no more bombs on planes. Kill the dollar, and they can't afford to fire off Tomahawk missiles.
That's it.
Checkmate.
Checkmate. I like it.
Over, Rory. It's like we're just waiting for the fat woman to sing at this point. Actually, we're waiting for the Belgian health minister to start singing. Have you seen the picture of this woman?
No.
Rory, I want you to do me. You have a computer in front of you, obviously, right?
Yes.
For the audience sake, I want you to type in Belgian health and minister, and I'm going to wait for your reaction. And I want the audience to do this as well. All of us will have a good laugh at this. Go ahead.
Oh my God. That's the perfect image of a government bureaucrat, unelected bureaucrat, health minister.
The woman is 650 pounds.
If she's
the health minister.
If she's an ounce, she's 650.
Oh my God. She's 650 pounds, health minister. We're waiting for her help. We're just basically waiting right now for her to start singing. It's over, man.
I have no comeback to that.
I mean, it takes your breath away.
Oh, yeah, you would think you would see, the picture of health, and instead you see the picture of the Federal Reserve note.
My God.
This bloated, cancerous, like you said, cancerous element that we're trying to work around.
Yep.
I want to kind of change gears completely.
Yep.
Or as Monty Python used to say, and now for something completely different. Today is Good Friday. Christians around the world are beginning the celebration season. And this ties into part of what we deal with every single day of our lives now. And it's not anything that any of us asked for, any of the thinking people. None of the thinking people asked for this. When the Europeans began settling America, the town squares were usually centered around a church.
Yeah.
You can see this all across rural New England in particular. As the Europeans spread and settled more communities, there was a shift and courthouses began springing up next to the churches, and further still down the road, the church was completely replaced by the courthouse. Now we see full-blown attack on Christianity, social justice warriors running amok, political correctness running amok. I don't know if you saw Paul Joseph Watson's recent commentary focused on the art world and how modern art is now 100% focused on all things ugly and beauty has been swept aside.
Yes.
How do we
Absolutely.
break this chain, V, and begin winning this spiritual war that is now in your face?
We will start winning when we become aggressive and assertive, and we begin to push back and start winning the culture war. We already are. And I think the culmination of the 2016 election was proof positive to the world that we in the right are right now, or we, the conservatives, the libertarians, we're the coolest things going. We're hip, we're trendy. You look at the statistics that are coming out on Generation Z, which is the generation after these useless millennials. You look at Generation Z; they're the most conservative generation since World War II. They're not into all the crazy shenanigans and all the social justice warrior crap that the millennials are into, and they're much more free thinking, more libertarian in their leanings. That's a great thing. We begin to hit hard because our voices, guys like Paul Joseph Watson, guys like yourself, the team over at Rogue Money, guys like Cernovich, Gavin McGinnis, guys like them. We are making it cool and hip. We're making it cool, and we're the counterculture. Whereas back in the 50s and 60s, the left was the counterculture. They were what was cool and hip and trendy. Now it's back to us. The pendulum is swinging our way. We got to make sure that with this frequency change, with this paradigm shift, with the pendulum going in our direction, that we keep that momentum going and we fully swing this around so we win the culture war finally and forever. The last thing, when you look at the establishment, you look at the left, you look at these far left wing and leading nut jobs, they have nothing left. Even in social media, they're losing. In mainstream media, they're losing. Their ideas are not winning anywhere, Rory. So we have to be more aggressive, more assertive. Let's win this thing. Let's not be shy. And let's hold this administration's feet to the fire. Let's show these turkeys in D.C. that 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue is not some impenetrable fortress that's far removed from the people that it's supposed to govern. Let's show them that the people, the government is still by the people and for the people. And we need to make a mark. And I don't know if we need to do a protest. I don't know if we need to do a march right in front of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue saying, do your job, stay to your promises.
Your oath. It's not a promise, it's an oath.
Exactly. Keep your oath to the American people. Keep your campaign promises. Get this done. We want to see the evil. We're sick of it. Look, here's the deal. We want the whole, why it's so vital. And I keep bringing it up, and I'm the only guy that keeps bringing this up. I keep hammering about the Susan Rice point, and a few other guys, I think you've also said it as well. The Susan Rice point is important because if that string is pulled, then that string that is being pulled connects to the wider web of Obama, Clinton, Soros. The American public wants to see justice, not because we're vengeful, not because we're just angry. We want to see that the law, the rule of law actually works. We want to see that exactly it works. And it doesn't matter if you're a politician, a billionaire, or the average Joe or Jane on the street. We want to make sure that these laws are put in place, not to terrorize us and just to simply let the big fish, swim free, but that it works. And that's why it's so vital. It is a huge morale boost and a huge win if we can start seeing some arrests. I'm tired of these sycophant pedophiles. Rory, I want to line up every single pedophile in the back of a Home Depot and put a bullet in all their heads. It's disgusting.
I'll join you.
Amen to that, brother. And I'll go to sleep fine at night knowing I did the Lord's work.
Absolutely.
I'll be honest with you. Okay, because Jesus himself said, suffer it be for these little ones to come to me. For if you were to harm them and hurt them, it would be better that you put a millstone around your neck and be cast into the sea. It would be better for you not to even have been born. And that is what the Son of God says about pedophiles, about those who harm children. So I have no problems ending a pedophile's life. I don't care about them. They're animals. They have no conscience at that point.
Right.
And they can't be rehabbed. So let's see some arrests.
I want to see some arrests. I'd like to start at the base. Like you said, we can start with Susan Rice, Hillary Clinton. get them in front of a judge, an actual judge, not one of these made up kangaroo court judges, but an actual judge that knows and enforces the law. And then I want to see these nutcases that were out here destroying property, threatening the president's life, and threatening people's lives on social media. I want to see all of them arrested. Then I want to see all of these criminals, these traitors, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein. The list goes on from there. But those four right there need to be investigated and probably brought up on charges of treason. And Obama, he's another one. Bush, both, Daddy and Shrub, they both need to be brought up on charges. And until that happens, we got nothing. We have nothing here. Yep. And, you know, what the hell is going on with James Comey? Why is he still walking around breathing air when he had, like you said, all this evidence, actual evidence put on his table? Here it is. And you tell me that you went through 650,000 emails in 8 hours?
Oh yeah, it's you know, they have absolute mavens that are working over at the FBI. They can do that. It's complete. You know, it just like the white helmets. It's a sarin gas attack, but they run over there with no gloves, flip flops on because they're superhumans. I thought you knew this, Rory. I thought you knew this.
Oh my gosh. Well, I just wanted to get that out there because, like I said, today's Good Friday, and we have to start bringing goodness back to the table. Beauty has to be brought back into our lives, and the way that we can do that is through the rule of law and to keep things in front of people that are of a higher character, that is a return to the character of a human being that actually can look at a situation and go, that's a degenerate situation and that should stop. And it sure shouldn't be involved in my life. And I don't want it in my life. And I don't want it in my living room coming through this black box ever again. Right. And until we have to do it. I mean,
absolutely.
So, well, we've been speaking with V, the Guerrilla Economist, and you can find all V and his great team, all the work over at roguemoney.net. And you can tune in to his YouTube channel, which is Rogue Money as well, and catch a really great show with him and CJ and various guests throughout the week, Monday through Friday. V, thank you so much for all your time today.
Rory, it's my pleasure. It's my honor. Again, huge fan of your work and continued success for all of us. And may God help us all going forward, brother.
Thank you, and have a great Easter.
You too, man. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy.